Welcome to SaviTalk. Conversation isn't just talk, but it's the start of something bigger. Of course, you can't have a conversation by yourself. So let's get rooted, let's get real. In this episode, let's meet your host. Let's start with Simon.
I'm Simon Gooch. I'm the field CIO, and I am the self-appointed eye candy for this show.
My name is Jim Routh, and I'm the Chief Trust Officer for Savient, and I'm the one who makes the eye candy look good.
Henrique.
And I'm Henrique, as VP of Strategy at Savient, and I am David's best friend. I know I'm the one you like the best. Come on, be honest.
It's still, jury's still out. I'm just meeting all you guys for the first time. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But I'm David Lee, field CTO here at Savient, and this episode really just wanted to kind of have a chat about everybody's background. Most of us are seasons enough to where, like, this wasn't really a thing, right? Like, nobody was jumping up and down and going, I want to be an identity when I grow up. Like, most of us just kind of landed there. It was like, we looked up 10 or 15 years or 20 years later, it was like, oh, I'm still here. I mean, that's just mostly my story. But, like, Simon, how did you get into identity?
So I'm a lifelong technology person.
Okay.
Honestly, like I'm 6-7 years into security and identity security. I was definitely pulled dragging and screaming into like this space, right? I mean, I was told there's this issue we need to go sort out, and you sorted out all this other stuff. So hey, this looks like this is your gig, and I'm like, yeah, it's not my gig. So I used to do cloud transformation, IT transformation. I was quite happy not having anything to do with security.
So what was your major? I mean, what
was my major?
Yeah.
Guess.
Marketing? It's an honest guess. Based on how you dress.
You're never going to guess in 1,000 years.
Yeah, please tell us.
So sports science.
Science.
I like to emphasize the science bit of that.
Okay.
Yeah, because I never did anything with the science bit. But yeah, no, my background is one of like, hey, if there's a mess needs sorting out, come and sort it out. And I had to go sort out some stuff when I was at Accenture, and I actually really enjoyed it. Like, I was like, wow, this is a space where stuff changes all the time, which is not news to anyone, right? Like, I love the fact that if something changes, you have to deal with it and you have to adapt. That's what drives me. So that's why, honestly, I don't have time for security people. I think they're really boring. They talk about the same stuff, and
Not David. You don't think he's boring.
security people. I didn't say identity security people.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's me. I mean, that's me. It's pretty simple, really.
Oh. I would have guessed philosophy.
Yeah, I would have too.
Right. That's what it's like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jim's major?
You'll never guess. I'll give you a hint if you want.
Okay.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so I studied the topic that I loved, and there was no professional relevance to anything. And I sailed.
History?
Yes.
Okay, that's it. You're a dog. All right. And I did not know this. So I'm not sure.
And I don't want to be philosophical, but isn't history actually a particularly interesting skill to bring to business? Because not being anchored to the past, but learning from the past, isn't that like how people are successful?
So I think you're absolutely right. My father did not think that you were late. Honda said, what the hell are you going to do with that stuff? Are you going to teach history? Is that it? And my father was like a CEO of a public company, right?
Okay.
So, he had higher aspirations for me.
So you had IT influence at home?
No.
Or no?
No.
What pushed you in that
no
direction?
technology influence whatsoever.
Huh?
I literally decided that I was going to work in an industry that was growing. And when I graduated college, there was a recession. And so I was like, I wanted to look for an industry that was going to grow. So I went into financial planning, thinking like that was what I would do, and got certified as a financial planner, true story. And then I got this, first of all, to be a financial planner, I think they were going to pay me a $7,000 draw against commission. And that was it for first year, right? And so the rest I had to build a business to do that, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, well, that's pretty paltry, right? So I got another job offer, and it was IT consulting and selling IT consulting services. And it was like for $25,000, right? So and back then that was like a lot of money. So I said, that's what I'm going to use. That's what got me into IT.
I can relate to that, but I want to hear David first. So
Well, we'll get to that, but I want to hear about like what was your because I don't know what was your history once you got in, what have you done in your career journey so far? I actually don't know that.
Yeah, so I was CISO 6 times for 6 different companies.
So you're glutton for punishment.
I had a little difficulty. Who are you
allowed to name the companies you work for? All the
My first CISO gig was at American Express. Now, there was something called the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, which forced by law financial service firms to have a CISO. So the CIO looked around, and the only person that didn't...
You're the last one to sit.
That's exactly it. And he said, Jim, you're doing that. I was like, okay, I'll do that. Security. I knew nothing.
What do you think was the characteristics, though, that he saw in you and said, wow, yeah, he had...
It was slowness. It was just...
He didn't move fast enough.
That's why Jim does pickleball now, because he does not want to be in the same position again, trying to compensate.
No, it's a serious question. You know,
A lot about me.
but in hindsight, do you see what was there that they made you the best choice?
The fog the mirror test. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you could.
I was able to fog the mirror and it's like, okay, you're good. Yeah, you're it. Because he didn't want to. We had a what's called an MOU, a memorandum of understanding.
Yeah.
The Office of the Controller of the Currency, right? And they're pretty strict. And so he didn't want to present the strategy of information security to them.
Mm-hmm.
So literally the day before the presentation, he appointed me as the CISO, and the next day I had to give the presentation. The true story.
Yeah, that's so.
He sounds inspiring.
Yeah.
So 6 companies after that, right?
So Enrique, what did the 10-year-old Enrique want to do?
Yeah,
The 10-year-old.
okay.
Not the 16-year-old?
I saw computers at a very young age. My father was an engineer. I was born in Brazil, so it's a third world country coming out of a dictatorship. So everything that we had access to was mainly Russian clones of PCs, and we had those things. Crazy to think about it, but very early age I had, I don't even name as a Z80 clone. And with that was my first thing is, okay, this is so cool, and learning basic and programming games. I want to do something around games.
So you were a gamer?
Not really. So like life happens, right? So what happened was at 10 years old, okay, I know exactly what I'm doing. So university was an easy choice, computer science. But by the end of the whole training, I say, I'm not a good programmer. I'm not a fast coder. There was a lot of people that was way faster than I did. So very similar to you, Jim. When I graduated, I said, I don't think I want to be coding stuff. And then somebody came and said, hey, Enrique, maybe you want to like consulting. So, okay, tell me more. What is this consulting thing? So I say, well, you take a software somebody wrote and you install this software. What? The software is ready? Yeah, the software. You just go and install the software? That sounds like, and the money was good, right? So recently graduated and I got into consulting. I was implementing user provisioning. That was my first job out of university, was implementing, running CDs, installing CDs for user provisioning. That was the late 90s when doing that. And then that got me into all the vendors and all the things in identity. So it was kind of luck that I fell into that, but through consulting and eventually into software and rest is history.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Dave's
Pretty cool.
But no pressure, but make it interesting.
I mean, I can only tell the truth whether I wish or not. You go from there. So I always had a fascination with computers. I was a gamer as a kid, and then I think the first computer I used was probably Commodore 64. I believe. I think my uncle had it, and it was a big. I put in the little 5 1/4 floppy disk to load up the game, and so. They basically they bought it for my cousins, their daughters at the time, for just word process and stuff like that or whatever. And so then I started figuring out you could use little different games. It wasn't Excite Bike, but a version of Excite Bike and all that stuff or whatever. And then my stepdad would build computers, right? So then he would build computers, and I would be at his house and he'd have it open, and I'd be sitting there looking at it. He goes, all right, well, I'm going to show you how all this stuff comes together, right? And at the time, when he was building them, most of the stuff was color coded on the chip. So you kind of knew, you just had to match the colors and what to go, what went where. And so he would take me to, I was in California, Fry's, which is basically like the Walmart of electronics. And I was done after that. Like we just went through, I go up and down the aisles.
Like Disneyland, right?
Yeah, like you can figure out how to pull these things together. So I was like, all right. So, computers, I was like, okay, we'll figure something out. But then I started playing sports. So I was like, I was like, well, I'll go to the NFL so that stuff matters.
Right.
And then, like kind of like junior, senior year, I was like, yeah, no, probably not. Right. I may make it, but we'll see. And so we had to start figuring out like, what are you going to do for college? So I was like, it's either law school or like, I'll go for computers. Right. I didn't even know what computer science was. And then when I looked at it, I was like, how long is law school? I was like, yeah, I'm not going to be, I don't want to be in college that long. Cause I was, fairly smart kid. So like, I was one of those where school was fairly easy. So therefore, like, it was boring. I was like, I don't want to keep, if this is all this is, I don't want to keep doing this. Like, I was a kid that figured out by like sophomore year, I was like, I wouldn't show up to class. I was like, just give me the test. Like, and literally, I remember we had to have a conversation. They had to like call and have a conversation with my mom. It's like, well, he doesn't really do homework and stuff like that or whatever. But like, they were upset because I was like, but if you give me the test, like, I'll bet you I'll probably pass it, right? And so it was like, well, it doesn't work like that. And I was like, well, why not? Like, dude, it's just, if you're just gonna test me on it. So anyway, I was that kid. So finally, at the end of it, I said, okay, I'm just gonna go for computer science. I got recruited to play football. Didn't do it on a football team, and I learned everything about like programming and stuff when I got to college. And then once I got out, I was like, programming's pretty cool. I like this. And I was like right around the time. When did I come out? I came out 2003. So this was the 9/11 Commission report that came out. So like the Northern Virginia area was just hiring like programmers like crazy. So I just kind of got swept up in all that. And I thought my career was just going to be a programmer. I was like, I'll just eventually be a CTO one day. Like I'll be the best programmer in the world. And then I took this contract and they had to build this access request system. That was in the job rec, right? You're going to build, we need a J2EE developer, build this access request system. I was like, awesome, dude. I'll go in there. I'll bang this thing out, right? And so I'm looking at all these requirements and I'm like, but they're asking for very specific stuff. I was like, hey, where's the requirements document? All these things or whatever. And they're like, whatever. Like, wait till the architect gets here. So the architect comes in and he drops these 2 Sun IDM manuals on my desk and goes, I need you to have this up and running in the next, 2 weeks. I'm going on vacation. Have a demo for me by the time I get back. Welcome to the contract, and walked out. And I'm like, 20 plus years later, I'm still in identity. So I was just, that's kind of how I fell into it. And yeah, like I'm the type of person, like once I see one thing, I need to understand everything. And the analogy I use is like, if you give me a screwdriver, then I want to go see the toolbox because I want to understand like why is a screwdriver in the toolbox, right? And now a screwdriver, a hammer, this. So now I know specifically, okay, well this tool is made this way because it's a specific job, right? Because I feel like if you don't, then it's the old adage like if all you have is a hammer, everything's like a nail.
I want to give you a geek question then, just to test your geekiness. Can you replicate a 9600 board modem?
No.
Can you? Digital Dave and Logical Leo, you're still the only people that can do it.
Now, don't you guys think that, especially knowing about our experiences through college and university, that do you think we were well prepared to what the professions of the future would be, like to Jim's point, right? And do you think universities today, they are preparing this new generation of professionals to what's going to be work like? I asked this question to a guest on our podcast the other day. What do you think cybersecurity will be in 30 years? This is ridiculous, right? Why are you asking me this question? But in a more perhaps predictable horizon, do you think universities today and school in general is preparing for professionals to be ready for the future?
Some universities are,
Yeah.
but not the top tier universities.
Oh,
The community colleges have
Okay.
a very practical program for cybersecurity that's designed to help people become professionals,
I think that's, yeah.
which is
Check
what,
this out, guys.
which is what we need. But top tier schools, it's all academic. It's conceptual.
Right.
So it's not practical.
But also as well, because let's reflect on our background, right? I mean, some of us don't have classic engineering, computer science background. That's what so I struggle a little bit with how do you prepare people in terms of how do you give them a broad enough set of inputs and learnings? Because it's not about security. I mean, like honestly, most of my day to day, nothing I deal with is really actually security. It's about doing the kind of basic, obvious stuff.
The other thing, cyber is the most important skill to have today, 2025, and perhaps the next 5 years. What do you think if it's not cybersecurity? And I agree with you.
It's incredibly boring. It's the ability to listen.
And communication.
communication is secondary, right? Like if you can't listen, whatever you says is BS. Like you actually need to listen. Like, and it's such a, which is why I kind of get a bit, don't get me wrong, I get like learning specific things, but I actually think we get too focused too quickly. Like, you know, I see in our own organization, like people that are great at some really, really niche specific things. But guess what? That's not the way the world works anymore. In fact, the world is like becoming so intertwined that if you don't have a broad enough set of skills and understanding, you're not as effective as you need to be. So that, I mean,
that is very profound and correct, because I think we hear a lot of stuff, but we don't stop to listen and think, okay, what is Simon saying? And okay, and then internalize that. We want to just say our thing, right?
Well, and that's always been, you know, honestly, like, you know, and people, I have a bit of a beef about the identity space because I feel it's been too insular. Like, I don't think it looks for enough outside to in data, and I don't think it allows itself to be changed enough by what's happening in the broader ecosystem. And I think that's
I'm going to provide just an anecdote to support your point. Yeah. So when I was in IT, identity was the place that mediocre talent gravitated towards, right? The technical engineer, really top technical engineers, did not go anywhere near identity. It was like the plumbing of infrastructure.
The black, yeah, there was like, no, don't touch.
It's like people that liked administration, that they gravitated towards it. And I know this is 20, 25 years ago, but that back then, I knew it in IT. I knew that was, oh, well, that's the identity team. That would be the lower skill technical. If we have a real thorny problem, we're going to call someone else, you know, the A team in, you know, that we're in enterprise architecture or somewhere else.
Was it more automation driven, network? What was it?
It was more legacy application driven. So, and it was custom mainframe applications. Then basically drove them. Yep, drove what identity access management was.
Well, yeah, and I mean, so 2 points, right? To kind of, you know, bring back into what you're asking around like universities. Like, the academia system, right, is the whole purpose right now for most of them is to teach you a skill. That's it. So to directly answer your question, no, they're not preparing them to go to professional because that's not, there is no how to work at a job major. There is engineering or biochemistry. So they're going to teach you that thing, right? And we've kind of lost the kind of vocational aspect of it of, hey, I'm going to teach you these skills, but also here's how you use these skills. And so I love that you brought up community colleges. I think that, like, I know that I've seen from, you know, some of my friends that went there, and then like I've got nieces and cousins, right? Just the difference in going through like a community college and learning some of that and then switching over to like a university. And that is a great place for people who really don't know where you want to go. And it's like, because you're 18, you come out like, I don't know what the world is. I don't know what a job is supposed to do on a day-to-day basis. So to go somewhere and find where they can kind of teach you something, then you go, oh, I kind of like this aspect and this is all from the profession, versus what most of us got was, let me go spend, $150,000 and just kind of figure out and throw a dart in the board. Yeah, I think I want to do this. And then come out and go, yeah, I don't really want to do that. But, and then the student loan bill now says, I guess I am.
Would you recommend to your nephews and nieces to follow a career in identity today?
Well, no, I would recommend to my nephew and nieces, first of all, figure out what you want to do. Yeah. Like I told them, I was like, don't even think about like, they got to listen to their parents. I mean, I'm their parent, but I'm like, honestly, you graduate high school, like go to Europe for a year. Go figure out life, who you are.
Go experience, right? Yeah, it's such a boring thing to say, but like it is so true. Like you look at the people that are successful, and they bring a whole load of different experiences together.
Okay, I'll disagree at one point because, man, you are a luminary in what we do. Like, with all due respect, I do believe so, right? I think having that type of guidance within family, I think it's super powerful. If people out there that don't know you, they follow you, right? Don't you think we have this? Maybe I'm overthinking this. Do you think we have this job of perhaps helping others to?
Our job as parents is to teach our kids to be intellectually curious.
Yes.
Up to them to decide how they want to do that, right?
Yeah.
And frankly, if we can teach them that, then that's the one thing in cybersecurity we can't teach, but it's essential.
Right. And Jim, maybe that's one of my biggest insecurities. My kids too, and where are they gonna be ending up with? And of course, we want them.
But look at the cybersecurity space, right? I mean, constant change, which means that you've got to be asking yourself, did what I know yesterday, is that relevant today?
Yeah.
Like, and that's it's such a difficult thing to do. Like, you need to be curious. You need to constantly challenge your knowledge.
Exactly.
It's not just about being able to learn new things all the time. It's about being able to learn and then adapt them in a constantly changing environment. And I have this struggle sometimes. I have this struggle at work where I say, right, okay, so like, let's assume that everything changes in 12 months. What do we need to think about? And everyone like has a complete meltdown because they're not really comfortable with planning for everything changing. But
I think that's the insight, Simon. And I was having lunch today, and I was just rethinking the dumb question I asked about the 30 years into the future, and I was ostracized because of that. But I think what you said is that being ready for change and learning. What?
That dumb question. I was just.
That was stupid, right? But yeah, being ready or train yourself to change, and people like as fast as technology or anything as demand as humanity changes. I think that's good life learnings. I think.
But I think there's be ready and prepared to accept and embrace change, but also be ready and prepared to try and influence and drive some of those things, and that's not always possible.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you can wait for things to change around you. Now, your resilience and adaptability to cope with that is one skill.
Yeah.
But actually, you can go and do certain things that also influence that change. It might be in a really, really small thing, but by deciding to do something and be part of the change and try, if you see a trend, like if you see something coming, you can start to drive that change. Yes, you may not be the gym influencer that kind of has the biggest impact, but you can have some sort of impact. And I encourage everyone, like, think about what impact can I have? Because it's actually really important. It's important for yourself, but it's important because like enough people that choose to do that, then guess what? We can move it in a direction that we want to move it in. And in the security space where, when we talk to customers a lot of the time, there's a lot of like fear of the unknown and a fear of like, how do I deal with this thing that's coming at me? Well, A, you accept it, you understand what that means, and then B, you look at the areas you can influence. And those, I just think, like, back to the kind of skills and the learning thing, I encourage everyone to think about that as they go about their daily jobs.
What do you think, David? Do you think, what are the perhaps tangible things that we could influence and change? And not only us, but perhaps whoever's watching us talk, like in chat here.
It's you just have to, like, everything that you do in life to find any kind of success is not in a book. It's not in a course. Like the core concepts are there, but you just got to go live.
Yeah.
That's it. Like you got to go live, and you got to figure out like what your risk tolerance is, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I've got a nephew. He's about early 20s right now, and he's like doesn't really know what to do. I was like, dude, that's fine. Like, well, go figure it out. I was like, but don't. I was like, what I would tell you is like, don't stay at home around the same people and all this, whatever. Move somewhere else. Go get out of the country. Do these things or whatever. Go figure out like who you are and what your risk tolerance is, what excites you, what doesn't excite you, what you're comfortable with, you're not comfortable with, because it's all those things that you're going to take that you can then structure into something.
And that's experiencing change, right? Like,
Right.
That's
Exactly. Yeah.
Because the one constant in this world is change.
Right.
Like, and it's speeding up, not slowing down. So get used to it. Go experience it in whichever ways you can, right?
Because a lot of structurally now how things are taught is very still much like we are sending people to go work in like manufacturing plants. So it's like, you just need to know this, and then this happens, and it's all these orders and these steps, and it's like, none of that is the real world. I remember like when I came out, I learned all this stuff about software architecture and how you're supposed to do all these things, and I'm gung-ho, I'm ready to come out, like my first project. This architect looks at me, he goes, man, kid, just shut up and sit down and just pay attention to the meeting. Like, we don't do any of that here. I was like, wait, where's the design document? Where's the ETL diagrams? Why didn't we do it? They're just like, we go to it.
There's no SOW for life.
Right. It's because it's like you learn that stuff, so you learn like what the fundamentals are, and then you got to go learn how to use them. And so I tell most people, I was like, just go figure out, like, literally, if you wake up every day and there's something that you're doing and it causes you like true joy and passion, go figure out what that is and go do that. If you're waking up every day and you just like, I hate everything about life right now, like, you need to change that.
Yeah.
Right. And I think too much of it is we look for these structures and these answers in other places, and it's the place where you have to find it is in living life.
So do you think it has to do with joy, perhaps, Jim? Because I think there's an interesting concept. Follow the things that brings you joy. I've seen contrarians say, well, that's a hobby. That's not a profession, right? But I think it's an interesting discussion. I end up talking to my wife, and she said, "Well," and then we moved countries, right? So and we uprooted our whole family, and said, "Well, but you're still doing what you love." I said, "No. I love guitars. I'm doing what I think it's useful for the world now, and that, but that's."
But isn't there a risk in, in the joy thing? Because a lot, let's just be realistic. I mean, guess what, right? Cybersecurity particularly, there's sometimes days aren't joyful, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes actually you look at it and think, this is going to be a whole heap of pain. So actually, I mean, I kind of get it, but I actually think, I think one of the key skills is being able to accept that you learn the most with the most painful challenges. I mean, it's been, honestly, the history of my career, I get asked to do really, really.
And don't get me wrong. I love this. I love this interaction we're having. Like, when I would have the opportunity for.
You say you're learning the most.
It's easy, and for me, it's an honor. I feel the gratitude of be speaking with the three of you. You are amazing colleagues, right? But so, do I love cybersecurity? Do I love like cyber defense? Not really, right? Which is okay.
Look, when we're students, we pay money to acquire knowledge.
Yes.
In the real world, you get paid for demonstrating competence. Acquiring knowledge just happens to be on the critical path.
You could write books, huh? I know you do.
It sounds like
That is like,
Right?
yeah.
And a lot of times you have to explain that to kids coming out of school. It's like, oh, I'm going to get this certification. Great. Why do you want to do that? Well, that certification will make me get a job. I said, you're going to get a job, you have practical experience.
you can.
Go volunteer at the hospital and do identity access management. It worked for us.
So if you were to give someone one piece of advice in terms of what's the one thing you could go know? So we talked about taking a broad spectrum of learning, but what's the one thing today, Jim, that you would tell them, go read up on this thing, because this will be invaluable for the next, and I'm not going to say 30 years, because I think you focus a little bit too much on the future. The next 12 months, like, what would you say? The one thing, if you're gonna go learn something tomorrow, what is it?
Data science.
David?
Yeah, data science.
I'll go with identity. I think. I know a little. Can I explain why?
No, honestly, like, no one wants to hear about identity. That's not what. Oh,
No, but I will anyway. I think that the common denominator.
I'm glad you're defending it because we had these shirts printed out,
No, but in one sentence, I think with all the changes we saw in technology, in industry, in IT, and everything, I think identity is a constant. I don't think identity is going away. So I think it's if you're going to make a bet, right, where you're going to be spending your time, I think it's high chance of success.
so putting that to one side because no one agrees with it. Data science. Tell us why.
Why data science?
Yeah.
I think you can get a job at any time and anywhere in the world if you have skill in data science and know how to apply data science fundamentals. So that's
Get a job. You mean like make an impact, do something as well, right?
and make money.
Yeah. No,
Pay off your college debt.
Did you give your answer yet?
No, it's similar to Jim's, but it's because it's and it has been for a while, the underpinning of everything that we've been doing, right, has all been built on data. Every single application, every single service, the last 30 years, all of the underpinning has been data, right? And what we've done is we've just abstracted so much things away from it, where we're having all these interactions and building these functions and different things and transactions up at this level, but all of it is still processing data. Salesforce data, right, was collecting a bunch of things around sales, revenue and operations and all that. Data, Tableau. I mean, just any application you can name is data. So now as we move into this next kind of, I'll call it like the AI age, probably the next 30, 40 years, what we're now going to see is the ability to transform and interact with this data now changes to becoming a whole lot easier. So now you got to understand, like, well, how do I mine and prepare these raw components, which is the data, to make sure I get the output that I want. And so if you understand that, like I think data science is what computer science was like the last 30 years. Like if you were a computer scientist, it didn't matter. Like if you understood computer science, you knew the theory of computing, you could throw any programming language, any network, any problem, because you understand that theory. I think data science is going to be the same thing.
Because I mean, because to boil Gen AI down, right? It's just quicker access to data, right? And more of it. I mean, I don't want to dumb it down for anyone, but like basically that's it, right?
Yeah, it's the ability to have a true conversational aspect, a true conversation with data, right? In ways that we didn't before. Because before, the language of data was equations and algorithms and these big, huge, complex things. Now it's just, I can talk to it.
To our language.
Tell me how many, key insights or stats do I see with this and this and that? Like that there's, I'll say this point, right? Because this usually gets people to look at it differently, right? The reasons why LLMs are so quote unquote powerful in the way they kind of respond to certain things, right? Is because it's just pattern recognition.
Yep.
Right. So that is one of the core aspects of like mathematics and algorithms is being able to recognize patterns, right? Humans suck at large numbers. Like we can't, if I put 1 billion numbers in front of you, at some point your brain just stops. It's like, I can't process, but to a computer, that's fine. And I can go and see the pattern. Well, why are LLMs so powerful? Because language in itself is just a pattern. If you really think about like how we talk right now, we are making sounds that we have just been trained to recognize that are actually words. But if somebody from another planet or whatever just popped right here, what they would hear is just sounds and noise, and they wouldn't know what it meant. They don't have any context. So that means there's a pattern. We do synthesis, there's commas, there's ways to do that. All of that is a pattern. So you give it to a machine that can go and look at that pattern. That's why it can replicate and turn around and sense it and knows how to answer you, because it's like, oh, you asked this question, you sent me this pattern, I'm going to respond with this pattern, right? When you really kind of think about that, now you go, well, if I can take language and do that, then I can do that with just about anything. Why? Because all I need is access to the data and I find the pattern. And now the ability to create and respond with something with that data just becomes almost limitless, which is why there's such kind of fear and uncertainty around, well, what could AI do? It's like, well, if we can process this stuff this quickly, we don't know, because we've never.
Well, because we broke down one of the traditional barriers, haven't we? Because as you say, like, I mean, data is everything, right? I mean, data is the thing that we're always trying to get to. But and this was the big awakening for me when I started to work in identity, was like, well, everyone's they're so tied to these kind of pathways. So yes, we get to data through an application. I'm like, but who cares? Like, Jim and I have this conversation all the time. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, why aren't we concerned with what we're doing when we get to the data? Why are we all focused on, hey, do we have the access to get this as an application? I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of important, but also ultimately, like the more and more now that we see the data is moved everywhere, anywhere, like there are multiple pathways to access this data. So we can't focus and worry about that anymore. We have to start focusing on the data, right? And that seems to be like, I just see people's head explode when you say, well, how do we think about managing data in a way that means that we can apply all of the principles that we think about that are good principles when we think about identity and access, but apply it just to the data? Like, don't care about, like, honestly, what's the pathway? Who cares?
I think it's super important, and we're talking perhaps in a very philosophical and high level. That
No, I don't think it's philosophical.
Let me ask you a question, Simon. Do you think with these advancements, right, especially when we can get data and automatically provide us insight, right, and we saw research showing that this could actually provide a decline in your cognitive functions? Do you think, number one, is this real? That Gen AI or agentic AI could deprive us humans from cognitive functions and become less, like we can't read maps anymore because GPS takes us everywhere. And I want to preface that with an interview I saw with on another podcast called SmartLess, and they had Bill Gates on that. And they say, Bill Gates, was there any type of evolution that you regret seeing in technology? And say, no, and then very naively, it was all very good. The PCs were good, the networking, the internet was good. All was fine until social media came to exist. That was when they saw algorithms that could be addictive and all the negative impacts of technology. So AI, Gen AI, number one, do you think it could...
But isn't it in human nature, isn't it in human history that we always seek out things that are addictive? Like, so first of all, I'm not saying it's wrong, but also isn't that what we've always done? So isn't this just taking, I don't know,
No, I don't know.
Isn't this just taking other historical addictions and replacing with something that's relevant for today?
I think it's a pandemic and a whole different like scale, right?
Yeah, but I would also argue that all of those addictions have continued to grow and be more impactful. So all we're seeing is a progression of that, actually.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's different.
Do you think we need to have more control around the limits of what this thing could do to our capacity to be?
I mean, controls are always good. What do you think, Jim?
Yeah. I think these guys are addicted to arguing.
I don't know if you put us on opposite sides of this.
I thought it was just balancing the eye candy, but it could be something else. No, Jim, that's why I like talking to you guys. It's just always an interesting insight, always something that we come out learning something new. We didn't even talk about bicycles.
No, that's a good point.
Right, or
Wait a
wine.
minute. Is that wine is safe? I think.
But I think that's safe topic, right? So was it during college? So it was history.
No, here's what happened. So I sold beer in college, and
As a side.
Okay.
as a side gig,
I think I like Jim the most of the.
I was popular because I sold beer.
Most kids drank it, but yeah, he sold it.
Well, I did consume as well, and I also played a sport, rugby, right? That you were encouraged to hydrate. So I drank a lot of beer. Now I drank so much beer because it was free.
Jim, what position did you play?
Free beer. Where?
Wing.
Wing. Well, I started outside center, but outside center, you got to go to both sides of the field. Yeah. So I was getting killed the whole, I was tired. So I ended up at wing finally. But, and I didn't like getting in the scrum and all that. That was not my style. But anyway, so I drank a lot of beer and I stopped drinking because I was tired of drinking beer. I literally was fatigued for drinking
You had enough.
beer. I had enough. So I went like a year and as a junior year without drinking. And then what happened is I went to a keg party on a lake, and this guy was hosting a keg party. Big, he kind of looked like you. He's a big burly guy. His hair was longer, but he had this big burly beard. And he said, "Oh, what would you like?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I don't need any beer." And he said, "This is a keg party. What the hell? You're in college. You're supposed to come here and drink. What's wrong with you?" Yeah, and I said, "No, I just stopped drinking beer." And he's like looking at me strange. He goes, "All right, what do you want? Do you want cents a million?" And I was like, No, I don't want to smoke any weed. I'm good." He's like, "Oh, okay. You want to some lewds? Maybe some lewds and sangria." I was like, No. Okay, how about you want to drop acid?" I was like, No. I don't want any of that.
I'm glad that you said no to all of this. It's a good start.
But then he said, "I know what you want." And he said, "Follow me." And he brought me down to this house on a lake.
Weren't you
It's like a
afraid of
cabin.
where this is going to end?
A little bit.
Okay.
So it opens a padlock, opens a door, and there's a bookcase. And on the bookcase, or not books, they're bottles of wine.
Okay.
Right? So he pulls out a bottle of wine, cracks it open, gives it to me, and I'm drinking, and we're talking. Sure enough, 45, 50 minutes later, we kill the bottle, and I'm like going, "This wine is great. This is wonderful. Where'd you get this wine?" He said, "Well, I made it." And I said, "You made it?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "No." He said, "Look at the label." And on the label's a guy, picture of a beast. The big one. And then it said, "Look at the cork."
Do you remember the name of the?
Yeah, Bully Hill it was called. Bully Hill. And the cork itself had a caricature of him, and he was, can I do this on camera? He was giving the finger, right? And we'll believe this. So I said, what's that for? And he said, well, he was a tailor. Taylor was one of the biggest wine producers in upstate New York.
Oh, he's
and he was the black sheep of the family because they were making like mass quantity, low quality wine, and he wanted to make a really good, high quality, small quantity wine.
So that was his FU moment.
Yes. And he got me interested in drinking wine. So that's where my wine drinking career started.
Well, guitars. Well, speaking of addictions, right? You have this bicycle addiction. Boss.
So wants to get you in trouble.
We're gonna talk about it.
Yeah, sure. I don't even know what a bicycle is.
But guitars, it's a funny thing, and
I like guitars.
because I'm going to do perhaps this almost like therapy, right? It's like, okay, we're opening up, show each other, right?
Absolutely fine.
Whatever it takes. This is a safe space. But
It's not that safe space because you didn't know there's a camera.
yeah, it's a safe space. We're all friends. But I didn't grow up speaking English, right? And music, it was one of the things. And reading about video games and video game magazines, but music and in radio and transcribing badly what the lyrics would say. And I was always a very shy kid growing up, and even isolated in a way, outcast. And and one day I saw a cousin of mine, and he has this band, like in a garage band playing. I say, what is that? So it was almost like I remember same reaction I had when I saw Super Mario 3. Like I was driving my parents and I saw it. I said, what is that? Because I was playing Atari and all this. This is next generation. So I saw a band and I had this, what is this moment? Okay, so you can make this sound, and this really shook me. And then I think that can help you with my shyness and being so closed up and singing and playing the guitar. So I all learned that, and that's how we got.
But do you guys want to know what Henrique is actually famous for? Alsatian.
Tell her. I'm afraid of that. I don't know if I want to know.
You know the answer to this question.
Oh boy.
So you can give us 24 examples of this right now off the bat. So Henrique is famous for making up Brazilian sayings.
Oh yeah, that's true. I'm not making up, but not making up. Those are all
So
real.
give us an example.
Creating. Yeah.
Give us an example.
An example.
And then I want to ask these two guys, do you believe it?
Right. I don't care if the duck is male. I want to see the egg. It means.
No, don't tell them what it. Do you think that has any sense at all?
Do you want to guess what it means? I don't care if the duck is male. I want to see the egg.
There's too much depth for me on that.
No, it is a real saying in Portuguese that say, we want to see the results, right? So you're in a board meeting.
So the duck is a means.
So you're in a board meeting and you say to the board.
I don't care if there's a male duck. I want to see the egg.
You've heard that a lot in your board meetings, right?
A lot. Make commenting I hear. Not.
Yeah. Or I'm lost in the woods. Or if you don't have a dog, you're gonna hunt with a cat.
Okay. Again, as every hunter in the
If
world.
you don't have a dog, you're gonna hunt with a cat. Meaning, you are resourceful with everything you have. So I want you just don't bring more problems, bring me solutions. So another board meeting type of thing. So next time, right, Jim? Yes, we're talking to a client. We can say, you don't have a dog, you can hunt with a cat.
Okay, I'm happy to do.
Now there's one that I got. So I was a gardener, and I think I can say that on camera. But
You're a gardener?
that part is cool. But the part I'm not too sure is this. It's a fart joke, but it's okay. There's this saying in Portuguese that, well, you have the cheese in your hand, and I come from a city in Brazil, they love cheese. It's everything. It's culturally.
This is contextually important to this
It's
thing.
important. And you have the cheese in your hand, you grab a knife, and then you cut it, and then just be decisive. So we have a saying, well, you have the knife and the cheese, now you cut the cheese. So go straight to the point, right? Don't beat around the bush.
And that's what makes this a fart joke?
Yeah, but I was with a client.
I have a feeling a dad joke is coming in here about.
I think this is
Yeah, I think that setup was wrong. I would have to tell you a little bit different. Yeah, okay. His face. But so I was with this client, a gardener client, and I said, so you're facing this challenge. You're choosing between those two vendors for a single sign-on MFA and fishing resistant. So you already have the cheese and the knife. Wait, just cut the cheese. Cut the cheese. And they laugh and say, yeah, it's a great idea. Let's just cut the cheese. And they laughed, and wow, they really loved my advice. So I started telling that. So I'm gonna do it again, right? So Simon, all right, you have the knife and the cheese in your hand. So, man, you just cut the cheese. Yes, I love that. And
I'm always just going to
always. So one day, I'm in this barbecue in my neighborhood, and I have this Canadian neighbor, and I said, I'm going to do that again because it's really working, right? So I say his name, Ian, come here, Ian. So, man, the renovation of your kitchen, man, you have the knife and the cheese in your hand. Just cut the cheese. And then look at me, Henrique. Do you know what that means? I said, yes, being decisive, right? So don't beat around the bush. No, that means farting. And I was perhaps a couple weeks telling my clients to fart. And But
But there's no bad thing as well because
there's
honestly,
no, you know why? Because it is an inclusive type in diversity. It's an inclusion and diversity type of story, right? Because it's language barriers. We all, which is not how you say barriers, right? It's not barriers.
it's true.
And I think that's the conversation, folks. Those are your hosts. We've got Henrique, who likes to cut the cheese. We've got Jim, who loves wine. And Simon, who may or may not like bicycles.
We're gonna come back to that some other day.
But avoid the male duck and look for the egg.
And look for the egg. If you didn't know,
I want to see the egg.
make sure you see the egg. Listen, don't forget to like, rate, subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're watching this on or listening to this on. If you're on YouTube and watching this, leave a comment. And listen, drop all the dad jokes you want about cheeses and eggs. Promise you we'll actually respond. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Rock and roll.